I mean, obviously, speaking on it and being on the front, do you have any aspirations of being a political figure?
I like pussy and liquor too much. I do.
DL Hughley claims that Steve Harvey wanted Bernie Mac out of the picture, and he's standing by that statement. Behind the smiles, tailored suits, and the public admiration for the kings of comedy, there was reportedly a side of rivalry, jealousy, and tension.
But one of the interesting things, and I think about this all the time, is from the time Bernie passed till now, certainly I think society has changed, the way they digest entertainment has changed. So I think it would have been difficult. I think a lot of people would have had a hard time with some of the things that Bernie said and tended to things in his act. So
Bernie said in the GQ article that when he got Ocean's 11, Steve had reached out to the producer and said he thought he would be a better fit and tried to get the part and blah, blah, blah. And that was some shit that, you just don't.
According to DL, the so-called brotherhood that shaped one of the most iconic comedy movements wasn't truly about unity. Instead, it was driven by competition, ego, and envy, disguised as camaraderie.
Do you consider yourself a king of comedy?
After Bernie left, them same three guys I'm telling you about, the king, right? Because DL is the great. DL Sandry is however. They came to me. I was supposed to be the fourth king. I got the offer. Why? Because the whole time Bernie was here, you was acting like you was funnier than him. The reason you was supposed to go last is because it was your tour. That's why it was good. Because you can't beat the best. And until you forever be king by the king. Peace. You thought it.
Now, decades later, DL Hughley is revealing what many have quietly speculated. Steve Harvey, who became the public face of the group, didn't just compete with Bernie Mac, he allegedly wanted him out entirely.
That Steve and Bernie butted heads?
Yeah. I mean, they were the kind of guys that they both alpha male. Steve was hot. We had the Steve Harvey show, so we had a national TV show. Bernie Mac was the hit comedian at the time, and then DL was hot. He had a TV. We did it. It was just me, Bernie, and Steve.
Right.
And Steve closed.
One time we were playing the Kings of Comedy, and we were in Dallas, and I was we got suites, and I was in the event room, and I hear the door open, and I go, "Hey man, you in the wrong room." I said, "I'm sorry," and he said, "Oh man, I'm sorry," and he kept moving around. I'm like, "Who was that?" He said, "Who was that?" I said, "What the fuck are you in my room?" And this was, "What the fuck you talking about?" I grab a gun and I walk into the room, and Bernie has a gun standing. I'm like, and we both just started laughing. And I'm like, "Oh, that was
On the surface, the original kings of comedy appeared to be the perfect team. Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, DL Hughley, and Bernie Mac sharing the same stage, energizing crowds, and selling out arenas. But those who were there at the time say something was different. Bernie Mac wasn't like the others, he wasn't Hollywood polished, politically aware, or curated for approval. He was authentic, raw, and street smart. That unfiltered style is what some suggest made Steve Harvey uncomfortable.
Right before we went out on stage on the King tour, Bernie used to pat us all. Bernie was an athletic dude, so he used to pat us on the rear and like basketball players.
You talk about being a witness to it. Let's go back to Kings of Comedy though real quick, because I was in Chicago on the Steve Harvey show when it was kind of the reunion special. With you guys.
About 4 or 5 years ago, yeah.
And you guys talked about what it meant to be on that stage at that time, really putting a stake in the ground for what not just excellent comedians look like, but what also Black excellence, right, could look like. Knowing that Bernie didn't get to, experience the reunion with you guys, how do y'all still keep in touch?
Well, Steve and I talk all the time, and Sid and I talk, so we're very close and still I'll keep in touch. Now, obviously, we miss Bernie.
The story begins in the late 90s, during the explosive rise of the Kings of Comedy tour. Every show was sold out, every city packed, for performers showcasing Black excellence on a massive stage. But even among kings, jealousy can emerge. According to D.L. Hughley, the behind-the-scenes atmosphere wasn't what fans imagined. He says Steve Harvey consistently aimed to be the frontman, the one the press interviewed, the one introducing the shows, the one taking credit for the tour's vision. Meanwhile, Bernie Mac became the audience favorite. Night after night, he closed the show with unmatched energy. Crowds would cheer, chant, and even cry out his name. DL claims that Steve, a man of pride and competitiveness, began to feel uneasy, as he was used to being seen as the leader.
Initially, I was going to do it, and it kept my schedule. It just didn't work out, but I'm glad I didn't. I thought it got to be too messy, and I said it out loud. I think for a while, Club Shay Shay was like Wendy Williams with a weight set. Like, damn, this dude. I mean, it was messy. The reason that those people went on Club Shay Shay in its first iteration before it became successful is because we saw what he did, and the reason I was going to go on it is because we saw what Skip did to him. I said any number of things about the way Skip sunned him.
Is that when he said, "Put your glass back on"? Or something
that was
like that?
so horrible to me that I think a lot of people were determined to help this black man be successful because of what had happened to him. And to kind of curate all that and have that place that they worked so hard for you to have, so you would have your own space, be just an amalgamation and curate all the bull that is happening in our community seemed insulting to me.
Right. And we're talking about, man, some of the same people that rallied around him to make sure he was good.
On stage, however, Bernie Mac commanded the room. DL says tension emerged immediately. Steve preferred structure, clean, professional, and calculated. Bernie was the opposite, wild, free, and unconcerned with Hollywood norms. He didn't play politics or seek validation from others. That level of authenticity, DL explains, can unsettle someone whose career is built on control. As Bernie's popularity grew and fans cheered his name louder than Steve's, DL says Steve allegedly began taking actions behind the scenes to assert authority.
Cause like y'all would be together if it wasn't for me. Like, okay, bro. Like nobody. You ain't told her one joke. Nobody coming to see.
DL describes that Steve's intentions went beyond limiting Bernie's spotlight. He allegedly wanted him removed from the tour entirely. At the height of their success, discussions about contracts, pay splits, and headlining spots began to create friction. Bernie reportedly discovered deals were being made without his input. Steve was positioned as the tour spokesperson, handling interviews and press, while Bernie, the one closing the shows, was sidelined. Bernie didn't stay silent. He openly said, "They don't want me here, but the people do." DL recalls seeing Bernie in the dressing room, frustrated and feeling like an outsider in his own success. Cedric tried to mediate, but DL says Steve remained focused on Hollywood opportunities, TV, and radio, while Bernie stayed committed to the stage. Different goals, energy, and values led to a clash of egos, and as often happens at the top, something eventually broke. Let's discuss what happened next. After the Kings of Comedy movie premiered in 2000, Bernie Mac's career skyrocketed. His set in the film, legendary, "I Ain't Scared of You, Mother," became iconic. Bernie was no longer just a stand-up comedian, he was now a recognized star in TV and film. According to D.L. Hughley, this is when Steve Harvey reportedly started reacting more strongly. Steve, DL says, wasn't pleased seeing Bernie get that spotlight. He wanted Hollywood's attention to come to him first. When the Bernie Mac show premiered on Fox and became a hit, tensions escalated. Steve Harvey had his own sitcom at the time, but Bernie's show was achieving higher ratings. Fans adored Bernie because he was authentic, a family man who didn't compromise his edge. DL claims this frustrated Steve, who was positioned as the clean king, the crossover success. Bernie, however, did things his own way, no fake smiles, no pandering, no compromise. DL shared a story that highlights this dynamic. During one show, Steve reportedly tried to cut Bernie's mic short, claiming it was affecting the flow of the tour. DL said the real reason was that Bernie was performing too well. Crowds loved him, and Steve didn't want to follow that level of energy. DL recalls that Steve disliked going on after Bernie because he knew he couldn't match it. Bernie was one of a kind. DL clarified that he isn't suggesting Steve wished harm on Bernie. But he did say Steve didn't mind when Bernie's spotlight dimmed. According to DL, Steve wanted to be the last man standing, the face people remembered. And in some ways, that is what happened. After Bernie Mac passed away in 2008, Steve Harvey became the undisputed household name. Talk shows, radio, Miss Universe, game shows, motivational speaking. He became what many call America's TV uncle. Yet, for some, there has always been a shadow behind that success, the question of whether the path there was entirely clean. Years later, DL Hughley spoke out. He said, Bernie was the realest one out of all of us. He didn't play the game, and that's why the game played him. A lot of folks didn't want him around because he didn't bow down. When asked directly if he thought Steve was jealous, DL paused and then added, let's just say Steve wanted to be the only king. That statement ignited online speculation, confirming what fans had long suspected: tension, ego, and politics existed behind the scenes among the kings of comedy. To be fair, Steve Harvey has publicly denied these claims. He has said he loved Bernie like a brother, that there was never any conflict, and that people are just stirring drama. He even became emotional in interviews when discussing Bernie's passing. However, those who knew both men note that the energy between them suggested otherwise. Bernie, from Chicago's South Side, was old school, straightforward, and no-nonsense. Steve, from Cleveland, was ambitious, strategic, and business-minded. Two very different codes, two very different worlds. When authenticity meets ambition, friction can happen. DL also said something poignant: Bernie was pure, too pure for Hollywood. And in a world full of fakes, purity gets punished. That statement resonates because Bernie wasn't a typical Hollywood figure. He was blue-collar, funny, real, and unfiltered. He rose through the clubs, through struggle and hardship. Bernie didn't care about playing it safe or pleasing everyone. He cared about being authentic. That authenticity made him a legend, but it also made him a threat to those who built their careers on being polished, controlled, and perfect. After Bernie's passing, DL says Steve Harvey positioned himself as the one shaping the narrative, claiming they were close, like brothers. But DL suggested that wasn't the full story. He said, it's funny how people cry over you after you're gone, but they couldn't pick up the phone when you were alive. That statement raises questions. Was there unfinished business? A conversation that never happened? An apology left unsaid? No one truly knows. But DL made it clear there was more behind-the-scenes tension than anyone publicly acknowledged. Even years later, fans remain divided. Some argue DL is stirring drama for attention. Others believe he's finally speaking the truth, a truth buried beneath fame and public smiles. One thing is undeniable: the story of black comedy cannot be told without acknowledging ego. When fame, money, and power enter the mix, even close colleagues can start to view each other as rivals. DL added something particularly striking: Steve wanted to be the face of the Kings, while Bernie aimed to be the soul. In the end, the face endured, but the soul was lost. It's a haunting thought, because in a sense, he's correct. Steve Harvey remains omnipresent, hosting, speaking, inspiring. Bernie Mac, however, is gone, yet his influence is still felt in every room where authentic comedy thrives. True legends don't disappear as long as their work is remembered. They fade only when they are forgotten. DL Hughley is making sure Bernie Mac's legacy is never forgotten. Ultimately, this isn't just about Steve Harvey or DL Hughley. It's about what happens when friendship meets fame, when loyalty is tested by ego, and when love turns into silence. DL said, "We were brothers, but sometimes brothers fight, and sometimes you lose the one who never deserved the pain." At its core, this story is about pain, not gossip or rivalry, but pain that never healed. That's likely why DL chose to speak out. Not to attack Steve, and not to diminish Bernie, but to finally share what has weighed on him for years, that behind the curtains of the Kings of Comedy, it wasn't always laughter. It was lessons about envy, brotherhood, and how fame can fracture even the strongest bonds. DL Hughley claims Steve Harvey secretly wanted Bernie Mac gone. But perhaps the truth is more nuanced. Maybe Steve didn't want Bernie gone entirely, just out of the spotlight. Maybe he struggled with being next to someone who didn't need validation to shine. In Hollywood, authenticity can be threatening, and Bernie Mac was too authentic for the game. That authenticity is also what made him immortal. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think DL is telling the truth, or is he stirring up old ghosts? Whatever side you take, one thing is certain: the Kings of Comedy will never be the same without Bernie Mac.